to the Memoir channel. Today I'm speaking with Catherine Berry about her memoir. But you are in France, madam. Any guesses what that's going to be about? All right, let's go and chat with Catherine. Hi, Catherine, and welcome to the Memoir channel. It's good to have you here today.
Thanks, Nikki. Good to be here.
I was going to ask you, when you moved to France, or when you started on your adventure, did you already know that you wanted to write about it?
Not at all. No, the adventure came because I am a French teacher and I had been teaching for a lot of years and had slowly gone out of the classroom into management. And I had my first child and went back into management, and it was all career ahead. Second child, the same thing. And then the third child came, and in Australia, the subsidies for anyone who's working, ditto women, are very, very few and far between. So in effect, even though I was working full time and giving a lot to my job, the costs were enormous, and I was having to pay for childcare and school fees at the end. And I just decided that I was working and I wasn't seeing my children, so I was going to stop doing what I was doing as head of school and start taking French lessons at home. So in effect, I went from being in management back to my former role, or my main role, which was teaching. And that was really the beginning of this whole adventure, because one lady rang me and asked if I could tutor her so that she could speak French with her newborn. And I had just had my son, and it seemed like such a fantastic idea that one thing led to another, and we started having lessons. So I was teaching her, but it then made sense to do the same thing with my son. So I started speaking French to him, and then our whole world in Melbourne, because we were living in Melbourne, Australia at the time, became French. And it just made a whole lot of sense to, after a couple of years, try and live a proper French life. So there was no thought of writing a book or a memoir or even writing. It was all about the language for me. And fortunately, my husband was on board. And so we made this plan to head to France for a year. But, and that took a long time to get organized, passports and what to do with the house and children's schooling and so on. But we eventually got there, and that 1 year turned into 3.5 years. And it would have been longer, but it was just by that stage getting harder with work and the children's education, because by the time we got to go, they were 6, 9, and 12 years old. By the time we left, Sophie, our oldest, was nearly ready for her final years of school.
Yeah.
So it was just a whole lot harder to work out how to stay. But naively, we presumed that we could leave France, go back to Australia for a couple of years, and then return to France. But it didn't work out like that, because of the 3 children, we went back for the years that it took for Sophie to complete her education, and then Molly needed to complete her education. And then when she was finished, Noah needed to complete his education. So instead, I concentrated on not giving up on our dream and purchasing a house, which we did. And that was literally the year after we got back, and it was all on the internet. So we actually didn't see the house before
That seems very brave.
Yeah, look, for some strange reason, I was not at all worried about it. And in the past, I had been fairly conservative in the steps that we were taking where the children were concerned. But I think having taken that huge step to go and live overseas with the children and go without work and go without financial support and go without family support and go without friends. And I was the only one who spoke the language. I think when you do that, you just realize that you don't have to be quite so conservative. So in any case, that was our next very non-conformist step to buy the house. And now we share our time between the two because our youngest has finished school and is at university. So we actually have a little bit more flexibility to go. But to go back to your question, and I'm sorry, it was a very long-winded answer, but to
That's
go back
quite
to your
okay.
question, yeah, there was no thought of writing a book. It was just that when I got back to Australia after that first return, I was really missing France. And so I thought I would just write down our adventures so that it could be a family story, and had no idea that I could sell it and, well, make money from it.
Right.
So it was quite a naive step in many respects, but one that I don't regret because it's totally changed my career path.
Yeah.
And it's given us the flexibility to work from all over the place. Hence, I'm speaking to you from Italy.
Yes. So so your children they've left the house now. They're all off and doing their own thing now, I presume.
They are, yes.
Okay, so
So
you have
two,
the freedom, and with this
mm,
you're now in Italy. So are you living in Italy, or are you just doing a visit, or is this just a temporary? What's going on there?
what's going on? Yeah. So I love learning languages, and I love the idea of really being involved in a community through language, because it was really a different possibility being in France, having French. I think we would have been perhaps a little bit more superficial than we were if I hadn't had the French to start with. And now I'm quite motivated to do the same for Italy, to really learn the language and to understand the Italian life from a different perspective than just scooting through on a bit of a
Yeah.
holiday.
So how many
And
languages do you have in all now?
oh, no, I don't want to give the wrong impression. It's just English, French, and now I'm a beginning Italian
Okay, so
learner.
you're learning.
But my husband's mother is Italian, and my daughter has, or one of my daughters has lived in Italy, and so she does speak Italian. And just coincidentally, she is right at this moment traveling with us, which is wonderful, because we are in a reverse role situation where when we arrived in France, I was the one who had the language skills and did what was necessary, whereas here I'm pretty much in her wake, following in her wake,
Yeah.
because she has the language skills. But still, I have to say that the Italians that we've met, we're in a village called Lucca, they've just been
Oh,
so
I've
charming.
I've been there. It's lovely. Luca's fantastic.
It's Oh, we love it. But that I have to tell you, everyone has just been so gracious and charming and very, very understanding of my beginning language skills. They let me try and let me get my sentences out. So no, we're not living here yet, but this is really just a little bit of a taste to see, well, where could we spend more time in
Yeah.
Italy if were able to be the case. So we're here for 2 weeks. And um, since we were living in France, unfortunately, Brexit has happened. And so my ease of being in France has disappeared because I have
Yeah.
a British passport.
Me too.
So, yeah, so my husband still has his Italian passport, but I haven't ever, since we were living in France, tried what is necessary to be able to live here for more than just, the 3-month touristy thing.
Right.
So the original idea was to try and spend longer, but I'm not quite sure how to do that
How to
yet. So
make that,
this
yeah.
is a test, and we'll see how it goes. I'm loving it, really loving it, and loving the trials in the language, but no, we're not
Yeah.
living here yet.
Yeah. No, Luca's fantastic. I remember taking a bicycle and going around the wall around the city.
Well,
You can ride a
yes,
bike around
yeah,
it. It's lovely. But okay,
I
so
know.
I'm very impressed with you because I see that you've self-published, right?
Yes, I have.
And I mean, I know you've done several memoirs now, not just this one. You did 3 different parts about this sort of the same topic of living in France and going back to Australia and living in France again. And I mean, I saw that this book, got over 670 reviews, which is huge because it's quite hard to
Mm.
even, people don't usually write reviews. So I'm wondering what you're doing so right that you're getting all these reviews.
Oh, they're not reviews, they're just ratings. So I do
Ah,
have reviews, but the ratings are that number. But I have to say that this has been a surprise for me too.
mm-hmm,
As I said to you, I didn't expect to have any interest in our story. But I guess once I do something, I like to do it to the nth degree. And once I started on the journey of actually having a physical book in my hands, it made sense to try and share the story. And to my surprise, people were interested in the
mm-hmm.
story. I think some would argue they're more interested in France than me, and I accept that.
Sure, but
France is a very popular
that's,
topic.
I mean, that's what a travel memoir is meant to do. It's meant to be for the place you're traveling to, right? But
Yes,
do you think,
and so
sorry, you go.
well, what I was going to say is that once I started putting myself out there, and I was living in Sydney at the time, I worked really, really hard to contact bookstores and to contact gift stores and to contact the newspaper and to go and do talks. And I loved doing the talks because that brought in some of my teaching. So I did
Mm-hmm,
talks at book clubs and probers groups, and it was a lot of work to spread the message, but it just worked. Now, the next thing I did was I learned how to advertise. And again, I had no idea. I was a teacher. I had no marketing, no advertising
mm-hmm.
skills. So I learned how to put up Amazon ads and Facebook ads. And
Wow,
well, to be fair, I didn't even have a Facebook profile when I started. It was social media wasn't on my radar at all. I was
wow.
almost opposed to it.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
impressed. I'm so impressed with you. I mean, you're like a marketing
Oh,
machine. You've done fantastic.
oh, well, the thing is too, Nikki, though, that I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And
Wow.
now I love the contacts that I have with the people around the world. Sure, there are some people who are not that nice and they're perhaps pretty direct. And initially, when I first published, every single negative review I took to heart. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
sleep if I read
Oh,
a negative review at night time. So I then had to
yeah.
set in place a rule that I didn't read any reviews before I went to sleep because I knew I would just dwell on them.
Oh,
So, but now I love it. I
no.
love my Instagram group and connections and the people that, and I like to build contacts really slowly and organically. I don't look to purchase them or build
Sure.
followers because that doesn't work. People follow you and then leave you. And so I
Right.
love just to have people who are interested in having a communication and
And
interested in me, my family, and so on.
do
So
you think
yeah,
do you think most of the people that are reading your book or reviewing your book, do you think most of them are Australian? Is that the bulk of your audience?
no,
No.
not
Okay.
at all. No, in fact, I can see through my advertising that my biggest market has been American, and my
Wow.
second biggest market has been the UK. And then my third biggest market has been Australian, and then the fourth biggest market is Canadian. And the Australian market, interestingly, has only just started to come on board.
Hmm.
It's taken a long, long time to get any traction in the Australian market, other than the bookstores and the gift stores, which were all in Australia. And
Yeah.
as I said, I had to work really hard. But the difference is, I mean, we're deviating perhaps a little bit from the topic of your channel being memoir. But if
Okay.
there are people who are listening who are
Yeah.
also writers, the difference is that when you sell to a bookstore, you might be asked to provide, as a self-published author, you might be asked to provide 5 copies. Whereas Amazon, you can sell, 20 in a day, but
Right.
those 5 copies might take 6 months to sell. So you just have to do things differently if you really want to get any traction.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I'm amazed to hear that Facebook ads and Amazon ads, they obviously paid off. That's,
Yes, so as I say, I studied them. I didn't just throw money at them. And I have found that the better platform is the Amazon ads for me personally. And when I stop traveling for the moment, I'll go back into looking more specifically at what I need to do with the Facebook ads. But yes, there's no other way that I could have gotten my story out there than advertising,
yeah,
because
no,
mm,
well
mm.
done. Well done indeed. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
and I was going to ask how long it took you to write the first one, the one, but you are in France, madam. How long did that take?
It took about 9 months, so maybe a year to get it published. But interestingly, the second, the third, and the fourth have all had very, very similar patterns
Hmm.
where I haven't expected to sit down and write, but suddenly, and my husband will attest to this, I disappear for for a month, and I get up in the morning, I start as soon as I get up, and I work all through the day, and I don't finish until dinner time with very, very few breaks. And I
Hmm.
go for about a month, and uh, it's virtually done.
Wow.
So from writing to publishing in the last 3 have been the same process, where
Hmm.
it just came out, and then the whole publication process on top of it, on top of the writing, the editing takes a lot longer for me because I
Hmm.
do that myself, and then the cover design and all the other things that go into it.
Yeah.
But from start to finish, it's about 3 months.
So let me ask you this, just out of curiosity, when you're spending like from morning till night writing, does that time go really quickly?
I feel tired at the end of a day, and yet I can't stop. And I hear people say I have to write. That's not what I'm trying to say. Because, and I suppose this is a bit of a reflection on my character, because I have got a goal, I don't want to stop until I finish. So it doesn't necessarily go fast, but it doesn't go slow either. I just have a goal, and once I get to that goal, and it's a word limit, I
Hmm.
have to get to my word
Ah,
limit
okay.
each
So you're
day.
setting yourself a goal every day.
Mm,
Uh,
mm.
Well, it seems like that if you're saying that's just part of who you are, it sounds like you're quite determined. It's like I'm going to write it. I'm going to write this amount a day. Then I am going to market it. I will find out how to do that. If I'm decide I'm going to go and learn French in France, I'm going to take my family. So obviously, yes, it's a testament to your determination, which is great. So, um,
Yeah, well, I did speak French before going to France, but learned Italian in Italy, yeah.
and I'm curious because you obviously have a bit of an Australian accent to me. So does that come out in your French? Do you think? Do people? in France know that you're from Australia when you're speaking French?
No, my French is good, but my family will again attest to this. I want to be not recognized as a non-French speaker. And so there are days where I come home on a high, and that's happened. And there are days where I simply say bonjour, and they will turn into English. So
Yeah.
it's really, really hard it's literally a roller coaster where the days can present different things. But no, I would say that I don't have an Australian accent when I'm speaking French. Clearly something is there because I
Yeah.
wasn't born French, but
Yeah.
because I taught French for so many years, and was so dedicated to the role of being a French teacher, it was something that I worked on. Yeah.
And you've done an audio book as well, right? For this
Yes.
particular memoir.
Yes.
And
Yes. And
is that selling well as, I mean, are you getting a lot of sales on that as well?
it's early days for that one. And I haven't yet worked out how to do the marketing for that in the same way. It's all a process because I'm
Mm-hmm.
such a learner. I don't have a team behind me. So yeah, I
Yeah.
have to take it step by step. Even doing the audiobook, I recorded it 3 times before we were happy with it. So
Oh my
it
gosh.
was,
How long did that take
in
you?
a way, a long time. But in a
Yeah.
way, I didn't mind because it felt good to revisit it.
Yeah. I mean,
And
it's your passion. So of course,
mm,
you want to get it right.
mm,
Would you maybe
yeah.
have a little segment you would like to read for us?
Yeah, I can read something. You just cut me off when I have read enough, Nikki,
That was
because I'm not quite sure how long you want me to read. But
just a few paragraphs is probably fine.
so this particular passage is at the beginning of the first book, and we had just arrived in Annecy. And so we'd had the 3 children and a big trip on the plane, and we were all very, very tired. And we knew we needed to we'd arrived in Geneva, we needed to get to Annecy. So, first challenge over, that of getting to our rental car. Alex was ready for the second, driving it. Steering wheel on the left, gears on the right, driving on the right, wife on the right, and straight onto the autoroute. What could be more simple? Probably excluding the wife. Clutching the doorframe and crying out, "Right, stay right," was possibly more distracting than helpful, but I had little to no control over my running, gasp interspersed commentary. Many of our visitors learned very quickly that after getting to our home in much the same way as described above, it was a whole lot safer for us all to swap partners, at least for the duration of every subsequent car trip. I would bravely sit in the passenger seat next to each new uninitiated driver, calmly repeating, "Stay right. No, you need to go the other way around the roundabout. Look out, there is a car, tree, fence. Don't go so close, and please stay right." I like to think that I saved several marriages, or at least holidays, with my efforts. In France, finally, it was a euphoric sentiment, and despite our driving jitters, the journey from Geneva to Annecy, our soon-to-be hometown in the French Alps, chosen after not much more than a stab in the dark at a page in the Lonely Planet Guide to France, was a precursor to the love affair that we were about to have. Mountains, cows, quaint little stone houses, all the photo cliché were there.
Thank you. Yeah, it gives a nice feel. I mean, that sounds quite scary. Someone going around a roundabout in the wrong direction. That could be pretty bad.
Oh, look, it is. It's really confronting. And especially when you come off a 40-hour or thereabouts trip from Australia, and
Yeah,
the jet lag is
yeah.
incredible.
And your
And,
brain's
I
scrambled.
guess, yeah. And our guests often did pick up a rented car. I mean, we picked up a few at the airport, but often they'd come in a rental car. So they needed to just get on with it and get into the car. So it was pretty scary. And then if you add winter, and snow chains and Swiss police, and it goes on and on.
And how did your kids do in those 3 years, in the first 3 years? Did they really enjoy it? Were they kind of homesick?
They loved it, and the I think the proof of it is that they all are travelers,
Hmm.
and they obviously all speak French. And yes, it was hard at the beginning of a new adventure anywhere in your own country. It's hard,
Hmm.
but uh, they were young-ish. They were with their parents who were doing all the mad paddling under the water for them. And they were at school, so they had the opportunity to make friends.
And it was a
And
French school or an English school?
yeah, no, I was really, really determined that we live a French life, a proper French life. So they went straight into the French schools.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah,
And
so I bet,
Sophie was
yeah.
12 at that stage. So she went straight into college, which is, she had all her lessons, maths, physics, history, geography, art, everything was in French.
I mean,
But that's it. And I'm proud of them. I'm proud of them for
yeah.
what they did. Yet they will tell you now, because a lot of people ask them still whether
Hmm.
they are or were happy with what we did. And they will tell you that they found it a really positive experience.
Oh,
And
good.
as a result, yeah, they are all travelers. They love the world. They are all really sociable. They love speaking with people and discovering people and learning about people, which I think is just
Yeah. No, that's
wonderful.
important. Yeah. So, what are you up to next as far as writing? Are you writing something at the moment? Do you have something percolating?
No, I honestly, it's not a, I'm not a normal writer in the sense that I it just comes and then it goes, and I just make the most of when it
Mm-hmm.
comes.
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
guess always though, when I'm traveling, I like to be observant, and yeah, I don't want what I write to just be a diary. So it's yes, yeah, I could write about daily interactions and everything I'm doing every day, but I just think
Yeah.
it needs to be a story in there.
Got to have a
So
little bit of zing to it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, okay. And then what is one of your favorite memoirs?
Um, I'm not a very, and I hate to admit this, I'm not a very big reader in English.
Ah.
One of the things that one of the things that I have always done is work on my language.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will read a lot in French, and now I'm starting to look for tiny things in Italian. So, for instance, when we first arrived in France, I went to the library, which was an experience in itself because it was nothing like going to an Australian library.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a Tim Winton book, and Tim Winton is a very well-known Australian writer. And I hadn't given myself the freedom to read for pleasure for years. It was always work or study. And his was the first book that I picked up in French. And oh my goodness, I so loved it. It was the combination
Mm.
of story in set in Australia because I was in France, but seeing how that was translated. So yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have
No, that's
good a
actually,
good
I love
answer
that
to your
answer. I think that was quite beautiful.
yeah.
Oh, I mean, and is there anything you wanted? I mean, is there anything you can think of that you want people to know? I mean, I know we can get your books, we can get your audiobooks at your website. I can put all your
Um,
information, I can put your information underneath here so people can see where they can find out more about you.
no, I just love if people are interested in me, I just love them to follow me or find me on my social platforms, and then they can see for themselves whether they want to keep following me.
Mhm.
But apart from that, I guess it wouldn't hurt to put our French home up on the page that you're going to
Sure, sure,
prepare,
sure, sure.
because it's we do have our French home on holiday rental, and it's in such a beautiful location that I don't have to do a lot of marketing for it so far. But people who read the book are curious
Mhm.
about where we are, and
Okay, that's a
and
lovely idea. So they can see a link
yeah,
underneath here and rent the place that
yeah,
they're reading about.
yeah,
Love it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And
Oh, my
I,
pleasure.
I feel like you've got darker and darker. I don't know. It's not getting nighttime. I don't know why I've lost the light on you, but
No, it is, unfortunately, and I
is it
didn't
getting
put the light on
darker?
before we
Okay.
started. And it is
Because,
getting darker because you're a lot
oh,
further south than me. So
yes, I'm an hour
at
behind
5:30
you.
usually.
All
Okay.
right. So thank you so much. And I'm really glad you could join us today.
Thanks so much, Nikki, for having me.
All right. Bye-bye.